Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Rotoworld Football Show. I am Patrick Daugherty, joined Thursday, August 8th by Mr. Denny Carter and Mr. Kyle Dvorchak, where we're just going to do a training camp newser. A lot of stuff going on, a lot of battles raging. And people are probably already tired of it. We're going to talk about Justin Fields and Russell Wilson because that is kind of the biggest training camp story going right now. We're going to talk about Puka Nacua and his knee injury, Christian McCaffrey and his calf injury. Yeah, Christian McCaffrey injuries never amount to anything. It's fine. We're going to talk about Josh Downs' high ankle sprain. Might get to the Cowboys' backfield situation, the Seahawks getting further and further away from the ground and pound nomenclature, and until we swear to God we're passing. The Seahawks swear to God they're passing. The Jets activating Mike Williams, Rondale Moore injured. I will start off the top, though, with the absolute biggest news of the week, of the summer probably. Nick Foles is retiring. Nick Foles, Hall of Famer, yes or no, Denny Carter?
Yes. Because he beat Tom Brady.
That's a bit, man. This is a bit.
Yeah, look, he beat Tom Brady. Tom Brady's a Hall of Famer. So therefore, Nick Foles is a Hall of Famer.
Preventing a Tom Brady Super Bowl actually should be instant introduction into the Hall of Fame.
I mean, and it was a cool one too. He catches a touchdown. Like that was one of the best games I've ever watched. One of the most satisfying moments for a lifelong Brady hater.
Kyle,
I mean, Eli's getting into the Hall of Fame off of defeating Brady twice. I mean, maybe you need to do it two times for it to be Hall of Fame worthy, but one's got to at least get you in the conversation.
Man, that's actually that's such a good argument for Foles.
And the Foles one was fun, like so much fun, legitimately.
Foles one he actually played well. Eli just kind of threw the ball around, threw it up a little bit.
Well, I was going to say he had like the most improbable catch in Super Bowl history. So I guess if your receivers just come down with those all the time, sure, that's how you beat Tom Brady.
Right. The helmet catch, bad throw. The other throw to Mario Manningham on the sideline, that was a good throw. That was one of the good throws. But obviously, that was just the helmet catch was just pure luck. One of the flukiest plays in history.
The helmet catch, that's what the Trevor Lawrence stands, quote unquote, think his receivers should be doing every play. What the Giants did in the Super Bowl. Why isn't freaking Christian Kirk doing that when he throws it 5 feet over his head?
Yeah.
That was once in a century type play in the Super Bowl. I'm not really sure if the Jags receivers can be doing that every third pass.
Right. So you're telling me Trevor Lawrence can't underthrow the receiver by 10 yards and they come down with the ball? Why not? Well, Eli and his guys did it.
All of a sudden you're putting Eli in the Hall of Fame, and Trevor Lawrence can't even get criticized for randomly becoming the highest paid player in the history of the league, even though he's not good.
He's fine.
We've
talked about this. I think Kyle's probably right. He's fine.
Yeah, we don't need to yell about it anymore. So the full thing was a bit, but it's no longer a bit. He should be in the Hall of Fame. If you prevent a Brady Super Bowl, that gets you in the Canton.
Get him in there.
Get him in. I will be in Canton, Ohio this weekend, along with Kyle Dvorchak for the Fantasy Football Expo. Come say hi if you see us. Come ask us about this latest news where we'll begin. I swear we've begun like 10 straight shows with Justin Fields and Russell Wilson. But this week I think we already knew it was real. This week it's gotten realer than real, where the Steelers media had been saying, yeah, this is happening. Mike Tomlin then, who isn't always the most straightforward guy with the media, was like, yeah, this is happening. He's like, I'm ready to come. I'm over it, man. I'm ready to come clean. Like I thought Apple said you could block phone numbers, and every Russell Wilson text still just keeps getting through. And I don't even know what to do anymore. I took it to the Geek Squad. They had no clue what to do. And someone released me from this. And that someone is Justin Fields. Now, if Justin Fields, Denny, wins the starting job, does that affect our approach with Steelers in fantasy drafts, which is a bit of a crazy loaded question right now because we don't know what's going to happen with Brandon Ayuk, who's trying to force a trade to the Steelers. So this whole situation could change. But how are you approaching George Pickens, Jaylen Warren, Najee Harris, Pat Freiermuth, if Justin Fields does indeed earn the starting job in Pittsburgh?
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be super run heavy, and so the pass volume is obviously going to be in the dumps. Last year, the Bears with Fields at quarterback had 500. I guess Fields for most of the year at quarterback had 513 pass attempts. That ranked 27th. And with the lowest being the Niners at 491. So you're probably lopping off I don't know, 70 attempts maybe over the course of a season, maybe more, maybe 100 attempts if Russell Wilson.
You really think they see that big of a difference between Russell Wilson and Justin Fields at this point?
Well, I mean, because you're talking about Fields' propensity to run.
You're talking about him calling his own number. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, and then that maybe I'm thinking that Arthur Smith can make something of this. I know this sounds weird after Arthur Smith has completely alienated us as fantasy managers.
No, the contrarians cannot wait to come out of the woodwork. I told you Art was good the whole friggin' time. Atlanta, you wouldn't listen.
Yeah, the Steelers.
He got like an all-time season out of Ryan Tannehill, and then everything has been awful since. So I guess that Tannehill season, there were 2 good seasons, but one was like on Pro Football Reference numbers in which you lead the league are bolded. They're like very dark.
Yeah.
Across the board, man. Yards per attempt, adjusted yards per attempt, touchdown rate, all this stuff. And that was Ryan Tannehill was like more physically capable back then, but within 2 years, he was just like, he was 1 foot out the door in the entire NFL. 2 years before that, he was the most efficient quarterback in the league. That deserves some credit for Arthur Smith. I've also seen the past 2 years. Like stuff has happened since then that really sucked.
Random one-off seasons happen all the time. Sorry, Denny, we both interrupted you.
Well, I don't think it's good for anyone, for any of the pass catchers. And it also
DJ Moore last year, wide receiver 8. You sure about that?
I don't know. I can't get excited about Pickens for one. Maybe Freiermuth. Maybe I can get into Freiermuth. And there's also the fact that like in the red zone inside the 10, Fields takes away touchdowns with his legs, and so it's like
all your Najee bags. Oh my God, they're up in smoke.
Well, because Najee and Warren have the same ADP, basically, I have struggled to take Harris, of course. And so, but I don't think
touches. Where did all that crap go?
Really, like from a best ball and redraft standpoint, the way I'm playing this is I'm just getting Justin Fields really late.
That's totally fine.
And just not worrying
about it. He's so late that he needs to crack your lineup like 4 times in a season. And if he gets like 9 starts, he's definitely going to be in your starting lineup 4 times. A month ago, I would have said he's not getting 9 starts. It's just not going to happen. Now I'm like, oh, that is a very realistic number for him to hit nowadays. And if that's all you need, I think when I was projecting him for like legitimately somewhere in the range of 4 starts, I didn't want that guy. But I'm pretty much fine drafting him now still as like the QB. Like I will chase him up to the QB 22 or whatever, because he's just that good when he starts as a fantasy asset, as a engine for the offense, much more, left on the bone for him.
Standalone, you can't, obviously, we're not taking flyers from Justin Fields, obviously. Excuse me, by standalone, I mean redraft, not best ball. No planet. We're like, I don't know. I guess
you get shut out.
I guess he was like top 12 last year, so I guess I guess he had to be drafted. Actually, I'm like working through this in my head. If Justin Fields is named a starter on August 20th, he actually does have to get drafted.
Oh yeah, no,
yeah. I think that's the thing is like it sucks to burn the roster spot because he's probably still not going to start in week 1. But in the scenarios in which he does start in week 1, you're like, oh, he's my starter. Unless I drafted the QB 6 or earlier, he's my starter. So like, he does have to be drafted.
Didn't he take Fields like higher than he's ever been? Actually, I really hate that I'm thinking these thoughts, but because he's a runner and it's a run-friendly system.
I think he can. I think that Fields was in a really unfriendly offense for a mobile quarterback in Chicago, and I think Arthur Smith knows what to do with a mobile quarterback. I know Tannehill is not Fields mobile, but back then, this is 2018, 2019.
I'm going to say 20 years ago. Yes, 2019, 2020.
But yeah, but Tannehill, he had some former wide receiver. This is what we all know about Tannehill. Of course, former wide receiver, he had some wheels. And so I really do think that this run game can cook with Fields. I think that his ability and the looming threat of Fields ripping off a 30 or 40 yarder at any moment will keep defenses honest. And I'm not super into. I'm not into the pass catchers. Maybe fire me like I said.
Well, hold on, I'm looking at DJ Moore. I was seriously like the wide receiver 8 in PPR.
No, yeah, he legitimately was one of the best.
He was the wide
fantasy
receiver
assets last
9
year.
by average PPR points, and yet Denny
Well,
says I'm never drafting George Pickens under any circumstance.
So, but Moore was getting that perfect combination of like short stuff and longer downfield opportunities. I mean, if Pickens has a completely new usage in this offense, I guess I'll be very wrong. And I also think that the Steelers offense is going to be more run heavy than the Bears were last year with Fields.
That definitely scans.
So
yeah,
to be clear, when I was talking about Justin Fields not being draftable, I was still thinking of Fields like splitting time with Russell Wilson, but obviously if you name the week 1 starter, I think Russ will just be gone. I really do. And yeah, Fields, you don't have to like it, but this is what peak QB11 performance looks like.
And really, I mean, as far as drafting him late, like if you're in a super flex, I would make sure I get Fields. Like just reach a little bit if you have to get him, because he's never going to be cheaper than he is right now. Like Kyle said, it could be a week or 2 away from more news on who's going to start. I know Jerry Dulac, who covers the team, said that there's no universe in which Fields is going to start this year. That's weird.
When did he say that this week?
I think he did. I saw it online just before we went live.
That seems way too strong.
It is. But all of the beat writers are in on this thing where Russell Wilson is the unquestioned starter. But all you have to do is listen to Mike Tomlin. Mike Tomlin's press conference yesterday did not suggest anything close to that.
And the younger beat writers have been like, no, it's a competition. And the national guys have been like, no, it's a competition. And the way the NFL is so screwed up right now, the local reporters like don't even get scoops. Like they're just like, give it to one of the guys employed by the league or whatever. And then they do. And Tom Pelissero was like, yeah, he might start. And Jerry Dulac then is in absolute shambles.
Albert Breer was very clear about the fact that this is a competition and Russ's injury factors into this big time. And Tomlin said, I'm going to watch the games, the preseason games, to see. I'm going to weigh that heavily, and we'll go from there. And so if Fields doesn't absolutely fall on his face in these preseason, which could happen, but if he doesn't, I think he's locked in.
Curious, Denny, the Mike Tomlin, who knows a lot about football, actually watches it. And
well, he's never studied a spreadsheet, but just wait till he does. He'll be really into it. I promise.
You think Mike Tomlin knows how to open a laptop?
I think he's seen people do it.
Yes, that's very, very true. We've seen people move on to a new topic finally. Puka Nacua is injured, which has had people pointing out. I kind of forgot how checkered Puka's injury history was coming into the NFL. One of the main reasons he got to become such a day 3 bonanza value. He's been hurt a lot. Latest injuries to his knee. Sean McVay is a really unreliable injury narrator. We're talking really, really unreliable. But he says he thinks Puka will be ready for week 1. Just Kyle, does this make us rethink Puka as the clear-cut Rams receiver to roster over Cooper Kupp? Are we worried about him now in the first round, or is this just a classic? Everyone gets hurt, man. Like they say, he's going to play. He's going to play. I can't really worry about that. What are you doing with Puka Nacua?
Yeah, I mean, you can bump him down to 1 or 2 spots into wide receiver 12 range if you really want. And if you're doing a bunch of drafts, you'll get slightly less of him. But the alternative is how far can you move him down? Committee back Jahmyr Gibbs. I'm still just taking the plunge with Puka on that one. If I wasn't so sold on Puka as an elite talent, I'd be much more willing to say oh, Drake, if he had only flashed in the way Drake London has, we're if you squint the context of the offense, yada, yada, I think he's good. But no, Puka's rookie season comps to Randy Moss, Odell Beckham, Justin Jefferson, Jamar Chase. The one quote outlier among the great rookie seasons is Anquan Bolden, who went on to have a good, but just not
really good
superstar. Yeah, just good, lengthy, good peaks career, but not Justin Jefferson. We're I'm pretty sure this dude's the best receiver of the past 10 years. Anquan Bolden never hit those peaks, but that's the floor. He is a very strong, lifelong NFL number 1 receiver. The Amari Cooper kind of is his floor, and his ceiling based on how good he was as a rookie. It's Justin Jefferson, Jamar Chase, Randy Moss, Odell Beckham. yeah, like I am absolutely still drafting this guy. Am I terrified now? Yeah. Really wish he hadn't gotten injured, if I'm being honest. But like, what are you gonna do? Not take the best rookie season of all time at 12?
Yes. What say you, Denny? And by the way, we were talking, Kyle, I was like, Puka kind of reminds me of Anquan Bolden, actually. He's not like the fastest guy. He's very, very strong.
Mm-hmm.
Like he really, Puka Nacua's play strength, as I believe the film watchers would call it, is like totally off the charts. But Denny, are you scared, nervous, or is it a game where a lot of people get hurt and you can't worry about that if they say he's going to play in week 1?
I do want to say that Puka apparently lost a bunch of weight this offseason and wants to look like Cooper Kupp. So
it's over now. Never mind.
I don't know about that, Puka, if you're listening. Friend of the show, obviously. I have a tough time taking him in the first.
Feels like a season ender.
Denny, who are you taking over him? Who goes at picks 12, 13, 14 that you're taking over him?
Well, I'll pull it up. Denny, you talk first, and I'll pull up some.
I'm taking AJ Brown over Puka. I'm taking who else is going around there?
Garrett Wilson,
would be Jahmyr Gibbs, Drake London.
I would take Garrett Wilson.
Marvin Harrison Jr. Denny over Puka Nacua. Never played football before in the NFL. Drake London, never been good. Him or
Puka? That's a tough. I would go Puka, I think, over Harrison.
Yeah.
I'd go Puka over Harrison. I'd go Puka over Drake London, despite being a Drake London optimist myself. Jonathan Taylor or Puka, who's kind of.
I mean, I'm not considering any of these running backs.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah. So, like, here's the thing: is like, flip. If you were drafting AJ Brown behind Puka before, go ahead and flip him. Perfectly reasonable. Probably the same is true of Garrett Wilson. But like, you get the 12th pick. We all just said it. You're still taking him. He's maybe the last pick of the first round now, where I think you could argue him as high as like the 7th or 8th before this. So if you had your receivers tiered differently, maybe he falls more than just one spot. But you're picking the first round. You can be taking Puka still.
That makes a lot of sense to me, to put a bow on it there. And to put a bow on these first 2 segments, I'll tell you that we'll be right back after this. Fantasy football season just got better, $1 million better. Create or join a private Yahoo Fantasy League and enter the $1 million NBC sweepstakes, plus earn extra entries to win when players on your fantasy roster score a touchdown during an opening weekend game on NBC or Peacock. Download the redesigned Yahoo Fantasy app or go to NBCsports.com/fantasymillion to learn more. Denny Carter has an article on the old website, rotoworld.com, telling people about that contest, breaking it down in greater detail. Really, really cool stuff. Andy Behrens, my best friend / arch enemy, will be on the show in 2 weeks. He's going to talk about it then too. Really, really cool stuff, though, from Yahoo and NBC.
Yeah, the key is you want players who score touchdowns.
Yep, you do. And you really, really want the touchdowns to be flowing in Rio on opening Friday between the Eagles and who are the Eagles playing in the Peacock game? Eagles and Pat. Man, that's like totally. Man, what if we get a Friday night opening week Kellen Moore exposure? So awesome. It'd be so awesome on Peacock. I cannot wait. He's the fakest sharp who's ever lived. I mean, let's just be real. Kellen Moore. CMC, the realest RB1 who's ever lived the past 2 years. But a guy with one of the lengthier injury histories in the NFL. He's approaching the age curve. He never missed time last year. He did play through some things last year. Each of the past 2 years as 49er, CMC was kind of playing through some stuff down the stretch. The key that was, though, that he was playing through it. He was not sidelined. He is currently sidelined with a calf injury. We know that we're not pushing anything with Christian McCaffrey and even the most minor injury in the history of football on August 8th. But does this highlight the age concerns to you guys? Is Christian McCaffrey, Denny, the classic get out 1 year too early instead of 1 year too late? Or if Christian McCaffrey's on the clock, do you still just have to mash draft because it's Christian McCaffrey?
Right. I mean, if you hear, something in the coming days that he's going to have to sit for longer, or week 1 is in question, I think that maybe you can adjust the ranks a little bit. But really, I mean, we're talking about a team. We're talking about an excellent player in an offense that has a higher rush EPA than more than half of the league has a pass EPA. Okay, like just crazy efficiency. So what I'm saying is CMC doesn't have to be a huge workhorse, 25, 30 touches in order to get there. He can get there on 20 touches. He has done that. I think he can continue to do that. Does it linger in the back of my mind, what you just said, Pat, about get out a year too early than too late? Yeah, it does. It does. I played this game long enough to know that like no one is invincible. And, sometimes the surest thing in the world in August seems like a total, completely avoidable disaster come October and November. So that does linger, I will say.
Both CMC and Puka, it's just, we talked about this with Pat Carrane, Denny, and like it is absolutely stunning how many of these like supposedly minor summer injuries linger. But like I said, it's still usually under 50% of them. So like it's really impossible to, because some people you just look totally foolish worrying about like, wow, I probably shouldn't have been, a guy had a Band-Aid on his calf and then I never drafted him again. And now he's the RB1 overall.
I mean, we did this with CMC 2 years ago, right? He was coming off these seasons where he couldn't stay healthy. And then he immediately, because health is not sticky, like there are injuries that can predict future injuries, like concussions do have a higher chance of repeating. But we've done this with this exact player before, and we got the RB1 overall season later. Like,
but he was healthy then, though. So let me just say this way: if you were giving an either or zero sum, like you can't draft any injured players, or like you can draft as many what's a better way to phrase this? Do you think you would be better off just taking every injured guy off your board, or not taking every injured guy off your board? We know we have no way to predict where the injuries are actually going to linger, Denny. But if you had two choices, you can't draft any injured guys, or they're still there. Like, what do you think makes more money? Like, say you're not doing these drafts. You're like, this is like a computer prompt. So like, you're not even there to like make a like a human decision.
Right.
Would you allow the computer to draft injured players or not draft injured players?
Oh man, well, look, like black and white wise, if I have to choose, I guess I'm choosing no. But it does depend on the nature of the injury, on what we're reading, on what the beat writers are saying, on the injury history. I know that shouldn't matter. It's Kyle just said, and correctly, that
but we also know that it does matter.
It's not sticky.
It's not sticky.
No, the thing is, like, you can't measure when it matters and when it doesn't. There are some things that are truly
the thing. It's the thing is that it does matter, but there are more than enough times where it doesn't matter, and it's just so impossible to predict when.
Yeah, I mean, like
it's called randomness, right? Like we don't know. We don't have enough information or enough predictability in these things to say when it matters. We look back all the time and say, well, clearly that one mattered. But unless ahead of time I can say this is one of the ones that's going to matter, there's nothing for me to do with that.
What were you going to say, Denny?
Guy like Mike Williams. I'm sorry, I'm just not doing that. Like, I'm not torturing myself with that. The juice is not worth the squeeze, as the Zoomer said.
I'm fine with that because it truly is like the difference between predicting injuries for Mike Williams. Like, if you don't want to deal with that headache, it's fine. He's Mike Williams.
Kyle,
do you want to not draft CMC?
Kyle, I finally have figured out the best scenario. You're going out of the country, which someone did recently, apparently couldn't draft. You're going out of the country and can't draft. You've entered 800 slow drafts before you went to Iceland. You created a script or whatever for the computer to draft. But you have to decide, should I tell the computer if someone's got a Q next to their name, just don't draft them. Don't draft any injured players. Or do you tell the computer to, quote, stop the slide on the injured players who will become values? And you can only choose either or. No injured players, or stop the slide on essentially every injured player who's becoming a, quote, value. What do you choose?
think I'm stopping the slide. Oh, God, that's so sickening. I wish, though, like Denny said, I wish I could choose which players I can stop the slide. But I understand that's like the
you can't. You're in Iceland and there's blockers or whatever.
Yeah. No, I think I'll stop the slide. Mostly because I also like the players I'm stopping the slide on right now, because I'm getting to stop the slide on
the slide is being stopped on Mike Williams.
No, I know I'm stopping it on him too, but like I will take drafting Mike Williams if it also means like someone lets CMC fall to 4 or 3, or someone lets me get Puka at 15 or 16. So I'm gonna stop the slide, but like I get it. There are a lot of guys I don't want to do it with. CMC is enough of that guy to me, and Puka is enough of that guy to me.
Denny, stop the slide or no injured guys.
No injured guys.
I got no injury guys too. Like, the game is random enough as it is, with enough variables as it is. Why not cut out a variable if the guy's already hurt?
Perfectly fine.
Wait, Kyle, say it. That's fair.
Oh, 100%. Non-derogatory. That's fair.
Nothing has ever been more fair than that.
You know what is unfair is Josh Downs getting injured again. Was having a quietly effective rookie season until he injured his knee last year, right? And then he played through it. Right?
Extreme knee explosion,
But then
terrifying stuff.
He kept
that he
playing
played
though,
through.
then, right?
Yeah, he was a 3 DNPs and play guy, and
oof, you hate to see it. You hate to see Kyle freezing, Denny. Now he's out 4 to 6 weeks though with a high ankle sprain. Josh Downs. He was going to be the slotman.
That is not what you want.
You call him Kyle is computers.
The ghost of Kyle is speaking.
The ghost of the Kyle in the machine is still speaking. Denny, what are the effects? Is it creating value? Is it creating more uncertainty than we really needed with the Colts? What do you think with Josh Downs probably missing week 1? What is your take on this injury's effect?
Yeah, I mean, this is a serious ankle injury. When a team comes out immediately after the injury and says, yeah, it's a high ankle sprain, I mean, that thing could not be higher. We're talking a hip injury at that point, because the teams love to downplay every time a player gets hurt. Oh, it's the lowest possible ankle sprain any human has ever seen. This is not what they say about Downs. They say, no, this is high. So this is going to be an issue. And honestly, even if he's ready for week 1, which I feel like is probably a long shot.
I do too.
I wouldn't want to play him. I can imagine them having him out there as a rotational guy, maybe a few snaps here or there, whatever. But I don't think he's going to be right. It seems like the kind of injury where he's not going to be right for a while going into the season. But honestly, guys, I was having trouble getting any sort of excitement about Josh Downs going into the season because Anthony Richardson is back, and this is not besmirching Anthony Richardson. This is just saying that the Colts would be less pass heavy, have fewer attempts to go around than they did with Gardner Minshew last year. And I think that is fairly conservative thing to say. It could be a lot fewer attempts to go around. And our colleague at Rotoworld, Zach Kruger, actually had a post about this, talking about high volume rushing quarterbacks since 2000. He went all the way back to 2000. And he said, during that span, so a quarter century span, basically, the wide receiver 2 on those teams scored an average of 9 PPR points per game, because there's just not a ton of volume to go around. If Pittman's going to get his in a low volume offense, then where's Downs stuff going to come from? I just don't know.
I do just wonder, before I let Kyle jump back in, because we all thought we thought this about Richardson and Michael Pittman last year, and then beginning of the year he targeted him over 10 times in back-to-back games.
So the wide receiver 1 can get there.
Wide receiver 1 can, in his one fully healthy game in week 1 last year, Richardson did attempt 37 passes. They always say go all in on 1 game sample sizes from the first game of a player's career, but I do just wonder. I thought they seemed more ready. They were a lot more ready than we expected to cut him loose last year, Richardson. I'll say. I think, is that a fair, Kyle? And I just wonder if it's going to be a lot different than it's probably not going to be a lot different. But I don't know. They've invested so much draft capital in receivers. Didn't they extend Michael Pittman?
Big old extension. They give him good money.
So I don't know, man. There are really a lot of resources on people who catch the football. And I just wonder.
I'm kind of in on this, even if it's not the most likely. It's like, what do you win when you win? Oh, Anthony Richardson's the number 2 rushing quarterback and just a top 12 passer, kind of like what we've got with Jalen Hurts a few years ago, and what we've gotten with Lamar Jackson many times, where their athleticism makes it easier for them to pass extremely efficiently. You get a little bit of volume in the mix, like we've seen the Lamar pass rate over expected last year. It was actually pretty reasonable. They had a very good defense, so it's hard to always capitalize on that. But we want to think about what happens if they cut X player loose. What happens if Will Levis gets cut loose? I don't know. I don't think Will Levis is that good.
What happens when Will Levis gets cut?
Come on.
It's closer to that. But when Anthony Richardson gets cut loose, that can be a dangerous offense. So I think we need to at least be thinking about these things And it's honestly something I haven't thought about too much before. But like you said, they invested a lot in receiver. They invested a lot in Richardson. If you have a quarterback who you think, I don't know if we're ever going to be able to really cut him loose, we don't really want this guy to throw that much, you probably wouldn't take him number 4 overall. So yeah, I actually think it's a pretty reasonable take to say it is possible that they view him as a better passer because they literally do. They took him 4th overall.
Yeah. And by the way, talking about 1 game samples, we're going to hammer this 1 game sample because I have some numbers from that 1 game. We're talking about week 1 last year.
Week 1.
Oh no, counterinsurgency from Denny. Don't like this.
And no. And I'm wrong. So 0% pass rate over expected. So like right on target there. They were 6% under their expected pass rate on first down, but that's not, I don't think anything catastrophic. So we're talking about a good number of dropbacks. I mean, look, if Anthony Richardson's dropping back 35, 40 times a game, then
QB1.
Josh Downs is going to get there and some. Like that's just that's simple math. That's the analytics.
Well, didn't you say, Denny, to Pat Kerrane that Josh Downs, though missing any time, kind of just ensures that Michael Pittman will once again get away with it?
Oh, he's getting away with it so hard. I just want to say hearty congratulations to all the Pittman drafters.
No, come on, the Pittman slappies is what you're
for the second. For the second straight year, you have gotten all the way away with it.
I do agree with this. I was like, oh man, Downs was really good as a rookie, and we know like those guys can take the leap. Maybe he can push Pittman for some targets, like a 1A, 1B situation. Is sort of like as soon as I conceive of that immediate injury, but like maybe we could see that over the second half of the season still.
I don't know when the Pittman scam is going to run out, but
once you're out of money, Denny, once they've taken everything you have.
Speaking of scams, Denny is absolutely praying that the Brinks heist currently going down in Dallas never ends this season. And he remains all in on Ezekiel Elliott, all in on Ezekiel Elliott, despite the Athletics stating this week that Rico Dowdle has to be the favorite to lead the team in rushing, even though then they said he's maybe the number 3 running back, and there was a lot of things in the report that didn't quite make sense. But it does make sense that the team will be looking to do things other than give Ezekiel Elliott the ball, Denny. We've been debating this one a lot. And just what do you make of like the Rico Dowdle chatter? I will be frank. So I'm super skeptical of Zeke. That's like taking 70% of snaps. I'm as skeptical of like the 9th year breakout for 26-year-old Rico Dowdle, even though Pat Kerrane facts and logic to me with Raheem Mostert and Mike Davis.
Yeah.
And what do you make of this? What do you make of this situation down in Big D?
The 12th year breakout doesn't care about your feelings, Pat.
No, it doesn't.
Look, I want pieces of this Dallas backfield desperately as a zero RB bro who is trying to capitalize on backfield uncertainty. That means that I am going to bang my head against the Denver running back wall, and I'm going to do it in Dallas as well because I got to find it. I got to find the skeleton key here, guys. So I'm not above like when I say that I like Zeke, I don't think that he's going to have a resurgence. Okay. He's not going to come out and suddenly look great per the metrics. He's going to look awful. Okay. Like eye test metrics, whatever, the nerds and the film bros were going to come together and hold hands and say Zeke is washed and he's catching 8 passes a game. And, and that's what matters. So I'm taking Zeke, but I'm also taking Dowdle sometimes because I want pieces. I just want to see how this is going to unfold. The reporting is very weird, though. You're right, Pat. The reporting is weird. Dowdle is the RB3 who should lead the team in running and in rushing yards. I don't know what that means.
You know what? The only what Cowboys running back I'll be drafting is Javonte Williams after they acquire him for a 4th round pick. Wow. That's what I'm doing. Kyle, any thoughts on the situation? What are you doing on the situation, Kyle? You're a Mazoomer. You're not drafting Zeke, right?
No, I'm drafting Zeke. I actually have drafted him a pretty decent amount. I would just fall on the other side of it's uncertain. Maybe there's a talent guy. The talent guy is definitely Rico, but it's also fine to draft Zeke. I think sort of to Denny's point, the skeleton key is around here somewhere. We're in the general vein of running backs in which there is a skeleton key. I think the Broncos backfield, because the way it's coached, is going to be very valuable. Someone there has a good chance at being a big winner. Dallas is going to put up a ton of points and also throw to their running back some. So they're going to get touchdowns. They're going to get the high value touchdowns and receptions. The skeleton key is here somewhere. The Chargers have a great offensive line, and they were going to run the wall until our eyes bleed. skeleton key is in there somewhere. I don't want to be, if you're doing one single draft, Rico, I think he's more talented. If you're doing more than one draft, I'd like to come away with both of them at some point. To Denny's point, this is where winners are found. I just hedge a little bit more towards I think this guy might be talented in Rico, but I don't want to oversell it. Like Patty said, he's like, we're looking at the 5th or 6th year breakout. It's not impossible. You name some guys who had done it, but you'd think we'd have seen a little something more other than he had 50 carries and did really well in my spreadsheet stuff. I wish we'd have seen a little bit more, but we have a large sample of carries on Zeke that say he's not particularly good anymore.
No,
so both are good picks. I'm taking the fun bet more often in Rico, but it's perfectly fine and good. It is not just okay. It's also good to draft Zeke.
The only pro Zeke thing I'll say, I know the Cowboys offensive line has kind of been in permanent flux the past 2 or 3 years and remains so this year. There's some upside on that line though. I do think Zeke's metrics will improve because as much as we like to believe metrics are like situation independent and that's supposed to be the point of them, you're not having good metrics as a washed up running back on the 2023 New England Patriots. It's just not happening. Also, like there was no universe in which he was going to have good metrics last year.
And just to emphasize how valuable this lead back role in Dallas can be, we're talking about Tony Pollard last year, 401, I believe, pass routes. That was the 5th most among all running backs. He was near the top of the league in both red zone carries and inside the 10 carries. Okay. He did absolutely squat with all of that opportunity, but it was there. And if that is stable in coming into this year into 2024, then whoever gets that, he doesn't even have to be good. Thankfully for Ezekiel Elliott, who hasn't been good in, 4 years.
Deuce Vaughn. Am I right, folks? Can't be the only one that thinks Deuce Vaughn's about to be a legend yet.
All right. I've last year I dabbled with Deuce Vaughn.
I desperately needed to cut him this summer. In my dynasty team, I was down to one final cut for my 24. Yeah. And I was deciding between Chris Rodriguez and Deuce Vaughn. And I cut C-Rod. I hated to see him go, but I cut C-Rod. And,
I think you made the right choice, though. Was this a 30-man rosters we looking at here?
Yeah, 24, 14 teams, 24.
Oh, okay, 14 teams.
And Deuce, I don't think it's going to happen. But this is one of the worst backfields I've ever seen. This Cowboys backfield, like it's real bad. Like, what was the thesis here with this backfield? Jerry Jones and the Cowboys. I guess the thesis was they thought they were drafting Jonathan Brooks until they announced they were going to draft Jonathan Brooks, and thereby allowed another team to draft Jonathan Brooks.
Yeah. That probably wasn't the right thing to do on Jerry's part.
That wasn't EV, Jerry.
But listen, it'll be an interesting thing. The whole idea, the analytics nerd thing about running backs don't matter. We're going to see.
I mean, they had a terrible running back last year, and it didn't matter. They led the league in points. We just thought that running back was good until he stepped onto the field.
It mattered when they couldn't do anything to change the momentum in their own building in the wild card round, Kyle. Maybe a stable running game, like grind out a drive or two, calm the Packers down, calm the crowd down.
You weren't calming Jordan Love down in that game. Dude had ice in his veins. Him watching 3 yards in a cloud of dust wasn't going to change it. He was going to nuke the Cowboys that day.
Extremely good point. Extremely good time to take a break. We will be right back after this. Experience the Olympics like you have never seen them before. Prime time in Paris tonight on NBC and Peacock through the end of the games this weekend. Very, very sad that the games are ending.
Is Saturday the last day?
No, Sunday's the last day. Saturday's the last day of full competition. There's a lot of team finals on Sunday, like men's volleyball. Women's volleyball made the gold medal game today.
Yep.
Men's basketball is currently in the process of hopefully stomping Serbia and making the gold medal game on Sunday on NBC.
Can I say how much I love in volleyball, the full team, not the beach volleyball, but the full team volleyball where they do the fake spikes. I love that.
The volleyball, it's like V2 rockets like falling out of the air. Like I've never seen anything quite as insane.
Also the top spin that some of those players put on their serve is just wild. Like the ball dives, takes a nosedive as soon as it gets over the net. How do they do that? I've hit a volleyball a few times. No clue how you even approach that.
It's totally insane. The volleyball is awe-inspiring, both indoor and outdoor. The dip and stuff they can do And yeah, sometimes it's like a rocket. It's like a really it's like an old fashioned rocket where like it's powerful and strong, but you don't really know where it's going.
Yeah,
They seem to somehow know where it's going, and it's just very scary. And if I was on the receiving end of it, I would just cower and hide.
Oh, absolutely.
And
My son had a good question watching the Olympics the other day on Peacock. He said, how does Norway have a beach volleyball team? And
there's some sand on a fjord somewhere.
I said, son, I don't know. And then immediately the announcers cut away to a clip of an indoor facility that they have in Norway. And because it's never warm in Norway. So that makes sense.
They're warm, and they have so much oil monies that they are building indoor beach volleyball courts.
They have a lot of sand.
They have a lot of sand. And the new, have you guys seen speed climbing? They've been showing this on late night in Paris on NBC with Maria Taylor. Speed climber, like it's speed rock climbing. You just like run up this wall as fast as you can. It's one of the most insane thing I've ever seen. ? It's totally nuts.
Yeah, it might be one of the sports that looks like most divorced from anything I've ever seen. Like they're just not moving like a person I've ever seen move physically.
No, it's quite insane. It's also quite insane, guys, was the 2023 University of Washington passing game. And Ryan Grubb, he's trying to bring it to Seattle. Well, he already brought it to Seattle. That's where the University of Washington is. But Ryan Grubb remains in the city of Seattle, Washington. And he wants the Seahawks passing game to potentially go Burr. Michael Sean Dugar from The Athletic, who's been on this show before, said the team is shaping the offense around Geno Smith's skill set. Ryan Grubb has called Geno an elite quarterback. I couldn't quite get through that part, but he has the traits to be able to push the ball down the field, quick release to get accurate, underneath throws, and great understanding of the protection scheme, Grubb said. That's one of the biggest assets. You come in and have a guy like Geno, you can execute your protection and scheme and take care of himself. He's basically saying he's going to try to do the Penix offense with Geno Smith. They've got a really good 3-receiver set. And like Mike McDonald, early days of Seahawks coach, like we're going to establish it to be ground and pound. We want to win the time of possession battle. He hasn't said that in like 4 or 5 months. Do we buy Denny that they really are going to do this offense that Ryan Grubb is famous for?
Yes, I'm buying it. And if you don't believe me, look at all my best ball teams, which have just an obscene number of Seahawks. Noah Fant, JSN. I'm not even a JSN guy, but I'm in at the ADP.
Buckeyes, am I right?
That's as a
We all
turf,
say.
I guess not. But
Denny is your feared conference rival. Says no.
Yeah,
what conference rival? Or wait, our what? Our what conference?
I wonder if Maryland has ever beaten Ohio State in a single sport. But
no, but we would like to be back in the ACC if anyone's listening.
It's true. It's true.
So anyway, I have a lot of DK Metcalf and Lockett. Anyway, all of them, and I'm in. I actually wrote a piece before I went to Greece for 6 months on some of the more underrated quarterbacks, and you wouldn't believe this, but Geno Smith qualified. Can I read you a little bit from this piece, guys?
Please do.
All right. So he's definitely changed my mind about him as a quarterback over the past 2 seasons as a starter in Seattle. Over that time, the Seahawks have the 8th highest EPA per play. They're just behind the Niners in that category. When using play action, only Brock Purdy and Lamar Jackson were better in adjusted yards per attempt last year than Geno. The Seahawks were elite on first and second down. The early downs, they had it down pat. Late downs, not so much. They were really bad in late down situations. I know Pat has his theory about that. And I thought of you, by the way, when I blurbed that, and Grubb called Geno elite. I thought of you, and
surely he won't take a sack on the biggest play of the game.
I thought of you possibly passing out when you read that. Your wife finding you at the computer. Anyway, I do think they're going to lean on the pass here. I don't know if it's going to work from a real football standpoint, but I believe that it will go Burr from a fantasy standpoint.
Took a drink of water at the exact wrong time there. Almost laughed out my water when you said go Burr.
I do think we have to completely adjust the way we think about the Seahawks offense, about these players. I think DK Metcalf is going too late. I really think that he has, with more play volume. I mean, the Seahawks ran the fewest plays in the NFL last year. That's crazy. And so if you get that even to the middle of the pack, you're talking about DK definitely exceeding his ADP. If you get up to the top 5 or top 10, I think a guy like Metcalf could really shock people this year with how many fantasy points he goes burr with.
Fewest plays in the NFL. That's Pete Carroll going out in a blaze of glory is what that is. Like that's Pete.
Well, they couldn't convert any third downs. That was.
We're all trying to find the guy who did this. Geno Smith. We're all trying to find the guy who his entire career been terrible on third down, and is apparently now elite though.
Oh yeah. I just confirmed it. 995 plays for the Seahawks offense last year. That was the fewest in the league. I mean, this is below the Raiders, obviously 32nd in the league. But I mean, it's actually mind blowing. And then when you compare it to the top of the league, like the Browns ran 220 plus more plays over the course of the season.
That is astonishing. Kyle, dare we throw to you for a 30-second quick audio blurb on the Seahawks offense, or should we move on to the next topic?
Tyler Lockett's looking a little old. It was his worst season yards per out run in like 7 years. And this is a team with probably a bad offensive line, maybe some quick passing as well. That all screams former Buckeye JSN maybe doing more than he did last year. It's hard not to be fair.
Well, the coaching staff has been praising JSN. They basically sounded like talking like he understands the NFL now. He showed up, is doing the things he needs to be doing after a disappointing rookie campaign. Said he's got the entire route tree down cold this year. So the JSN drumbeat is beginning. And we shall see. JSN could be a huge value that I will have no shares of because I never liked him last year, and I'm like that. But yeah, Denny, final thought.
I mean, you're going to get a lot more 3 receiver sets. The Seahawks are 28th in 3 receiver sets last year. So a guy like Jackson Smith and Jigba could actually get onto the field. I mean, to give you an idea, he ran as many routes last year as Josh Reynolds and Rondale Moore. I mean, just to give you an idea.
Denny, you already answered this one earlier, and the question was, any interest in biggest Mike, Jets wide receiver Mike Williams, who's been activated off the PUP list. They're saying he'll be ready for week 1. But you already said that, you're all out on big Mike Williams.
I just feel like this whole offense is just going to rightfully be focused on Breece Hall, both in the run game and the pass game, and then Garrett, just a nonstop feeding of Garrett Wilson. I mean,
I thought you said the offense was going to Hindenburg because it is, but anyways.
Well, I mean, it could with one old quarterback injury, but you have Alan Lazard, you have Xavier Gibson. Nothing against Xavier Gibson, a friend of the show. But I just see it's Hall, it's Wilson. I guess Mike Williams could make a play here or there. But man, I struggle to see any avenue toward an exciting season, a fantasy relevant season for Mike Williams.
Poor Kyle is still frozen, but yeah, I totally agree. I mean, this is like, whatever. Yeah, we're going to like Aaron Rodgers, who's gotten more and more reluctant to throw the ball down the field. Like his final year in Green Bay, blamed it on all the young receivers, but I think Mike Williams will be an important real life element.
Yes.
Yes. They need what he provides.
That's right.
But it's going to be more about getting real life defenses to fear like the deep ball. And very, very hard to see, Denny, how it translates into wide receiver 3 numbers in fantasy.
I could certainly see Mike Williams being an important part of the offense at points during the season as a downfield guy who can go up and make plays. And they don't really have that, right? Like you said. So, but if you switch your brain to fantasy mode, it's going to be hard to see a path to him being interesting fantasy wise. And I do think that that's a struggle for folks who play the game because you want to say, well, this player is going to be important from a real standpoint. So obviously that's going to translate to fantasy. And that's just not the case. I'll tell you a player who's not going to be super important, but who will be fun for fantasy. You're not ready for this. And I'm sorry, we didn't even talk about this. Ray McLeod. Look, Rondale Moore.
Say, is he on the Falcons? What teams is this guy even on?
Rondale Moore was playing with the second and third team in training camp anyway. He broke his leg. He's done for the year. That's obviously very unfortunate. Ray McLeod already had a lock on the slot receiver position. He's going to be out there for every single drop back for Kirk Cousins, and he's going to accidentally fall into a fantasy relevant season. This is my take.
Ray Mick KJ Osborne is what you're saying for Ray McLeod.
Yeah, something like that.
Occasionally be a wide receiver 4 in PPR leagues. And that's it. I will say Ray McLeod is kind of an all-time, this time it counts player. I've been told it will count many times, the Ray McLeod, and it never quite has. But I think we have kind of like a dovetailing of points we've been making, or a point I've been making over and over again is this Falcons skill core is not nearly as deep as we were led to believe. And maybe it was just pure depth that they needed Rondale Moore for. But now, that pure depth is gone for the season. The depth already being further strained, further tested. But like you said, it was Ray McLeod. Like I just said, it's Kirk Cousins, who supported guys like KJ Osborne in the past. And so, as much as I don't want to admit it, that is an interesting take to keep an eye on Ray McLeod in PPR leagues.
It's going to be a lot of 3 receiver sets. We're talking about a McVay style offense. McVay, of course, loves 3 receivers, ran it the most in the NFL last year. I think the Falcons will be top 2 or 3 in those three receiver sets. That puts McLeod on the field a lot. And, look, he's one Drake London or Kyle Pitts injury away from being like frighteningly relevant in fantasy.
Yeah, the Falcons, they need to make a trade or something. They don't have any trade ammo, though, after they traded up for the quarterback.
Look,
no, they didn't trade up for Penix. That's right.
The fact that I'm talking about McLeod, Ray McLeod could be a legit player in this offense is not good for the Falcons. And
it points to they desperately, like fantasy managers, need Kyle Pitts to be a thing. But you were telling me earlier today, Denny, when they're talking about like Kirk Cousins is like teaching Kyle Pitts how to be a pass catcher.
Yeah,
basically.
man.
What was the news there?
Yeah, so The Athletic had a piece on how Kirk Cousins is kind of serving as a coach on the field, and part of that responsibility is coaching up Kyle Pitts. And I'm just reporting what was in the story, okay? He said, he's working with Pitts on how to properly catch the football with his hands rather than with his body, and also to run hard, which he says that he can tell that Kyle Pitts is not running hard sometimes. So to
be clear, he's not saying he's not trying, but no, basically he's not properly, his game speed is not where it can be and should be.
Right. And he's saying you can be too fast for everybody if you want to be. And I do. I mean, look, that could lead to great things for Kyle Pitts. Like if he really takes this to heart and Cousins is able to coach him up in this way, and the new Arthur Smith-less Falcons are able to get the most out of him, that's awesome. I hope it happens. But I'm just telling you, I'm reading that and I'm going, wait, what? Yeah. This is a guy entering his 4th NFL season, not rookie, not even second year, 4th, and his quarterback is saying, no, you got to learn how to catch differently. I don't know.
Denny, surely it's only his 3rd season. Nope, it's his 4th.
It's his 4th.
It's his 4th.
Yeah, I mean, I had to look it up, by the way, because I was like, oh, this is his 2nd season, obviously, and it's.
Denny, we're having some technical difficulties, so we're not going to really get to our final segment. But what were you going to say that you were? What were we saying about the preseason? I already forgot what the conceit was. Weren't you guys supposed to bring something that you were looking forward to?
We're watching. Well, look, I mean, I'm going to be monitoring the following backfields very closely: Dallas, Denver, Cleveland, without Nick Chubb, and what was the other? I also wanted to monitor Jacksonville to see if they're going to really try to make Tank Bigsby a thing. Apparently, he's doing really well in training camp, and they want to get him the ball. Doug Peterson never stops talking about Tank Bigsby, so I do want to see if that's going to be a thing, because if Bigsby is going to be a thing, it's going to make ETN undraftable at his current ADP.
Of course, we're watching the Bengals backfield, a backfield that will actually maybe tell us a thing or two during the preseason. We're watching the Titans backfield because all they keep saying is that these guys are interchangeable.
Yeah.
And we need to find out what that even means. And I guess the Raiders backfield, Steve Zamir White, of course, the Chargers backfield. where J.K. Dobbins is looking like the ultimate stalking horse. Like no one wanted to make the positive J.K. Dobbins case like all offseason, and now it just might be he might be defaulting into that.
It's tough to do that. Yeah, and listen, if you're playing preseason DFS, please do not forget to play Raheem Blackshear, the greatest preseason running back of all time.
So a lot to watch for this preseason. We'll be writing about it a lot on this website this weekend. So keep it locked to rotoworld.com for preseason updates. Keep it locked here for articles too. A lot of content going up. Keep it locked to our social media feeds. Denny's going on the Fantasy Football Happy Hour. Kyle and I going to Canton. There'll be stuff going down. So check it out. So for Kyle, who unfortunately is having technical difficulties, and for Denny, I'm Pat. Thank you so much for listening. We'll be back next week on Tuesday to preview the NFC East.